No, it didn't work for you. Okay.
It was funny. Wow, you pulled that one out late in the afternoon, too.
No, really?
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. And joining me, as always, the scary Donna Grindle.
Scary? Hey.
They don't have to deal with you like I do.
Well.
And plus, they've never seen you in the morning like I have.
Right back at you, buddy. Right back at you.
You're right. I tell you what, the pre-coffee look is horrible.
Yeah, this is a mainframe. It has to be booted. It needs its time and energy.
Yeah. Yep. So this is our third annual Horror Stories episode.
Well, we got to do something for Halloween.
I know.
It is a bit of a challenge, though. And I think I tried to come up with like HIPAA-themed costumes and stories, but nah, that didn't work out. So I came up with a new plan. And you were so helpful as always.
Look, I provide tons of moral support. Good job, Donna. Good job.
Yeah, there you go.
So today we have 5 famous horror movie quotes that we're going to tie back to some sort of story. It's like a, horror movie for the real world.
Yeah. It's stuff that matters to us.
Matters to the listeners as well, or they wouldn't be here. But before we dive into that, I want to thank everybody who came to the HIPAA boot camp. We had a great time.
Well, this is this is released on the day that we're finishing up it'll be the second day of the boot camp.
That's what I'm saying. They'll be listening to this on their way home. We had a great time.
We had a great time. Okay.
Even though it hasn't got here yet, as we're recording, we had a blast.
Yes, we know we did. We always do.
Yeah, we do.
But we did shut down registration, and that has created requests for us to give dates for our next HIPAA boot camp, and we are evaluating some options, and we will be discussing them when we're in person next week at the HIPAA boot camp. So hopefully,
I think we should do like a HIPAA boot camp cruise.
Oh, I like that idea.
I do too. Since we can't seem to get to the west coast, do the hula dance. That's not happening.
There we go. But if we did, we could do the cruise thing, and then we always talk about having you trapped. Couldn't be much more trapped than that.
I know. I think we could do it.
And but then there would be that. Is it a booze cruise or a boot camp cruise? What is it? Well, we'll look into that later.
I don't see how you can't mix the two. To me,
I hear you. All right, so let's get scary with it.
All right. So the first one. See if you know where this one's from. Ready? They're here.
Yeah. So, see, that one's. I don't know. That all of these were scary to me when I saw them.
Dude, this was like the time where TVs went to white noise after 2 a.m. Back in the day.
This really meant something.
I know. So it was like every night you walk in the room and that thing is at white noise because it's late. And you're like, holy crap, turn the TV off quickly.
Yeah. Poltergeist. Poor little Carol Ann's quote. Just after the hand comes out of the TV and there's an earthquake and, those Native American burial grounds, just don't build a house on them.
I mean... But no, that was a scary movie at the time anyway. But how are we going to tie that into a HIPAA story?
Well, it's talking about, that there's some secrets that the builder's hiding from them, and it's built on unstable territory, and then they just appear from a place that you're not expecting them at all, like the middle of the TV.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of what the Dark Overlord has been up to now for years. And they're making more threats, and they've mentioned some other healthcare organizations on their Twitter account, and they just made a threat this past week saying, is a big announcement coming soon? We don't know, or something to that effect. But, the FBI, Interpol, all these folks are pursuing them, trying to shut them down. But they've gone above and beyond, just hacking, which is where they started, and then terrifying children and their parents and all these kind of things. It just kind of took it too far. And, but that's what they do to organizations, is they just come popping out of nowhere after they've been lurking for a while and you don't know about it.
Right.
So they come popping out of the TV at 2:00 in the morning. A hand comes running out. They're here. So they may not be the only hackers that do that, but they are the ones that are most famous for doing that.
Mm-hmm. And along the same lines, I think I sent you an article this week talking about another, I think it was a hacking group that's going around and cleaning up the other hackers out of systems.
Yeah, that one's kind of scary. That we're going to make your system more secure so that we can be the only hackers in here.
Yeah. There was another article too, kind of along the same lines. There's some guy that is supposedly logging into all these Microtech routers that are insecure. He's
fixing them.
He's logging in and fixing them, which, you're like, great. But then again, not.
Well, yeah, because then he's getting in trouble for doing it. You can't win for losing kind of thing.
So
it's out there, and that's, and really, it's kind of like when people, how do I know when I have ransomware? When they say they're there.
Yeah,
so,
you'll know.
Yeah, it says we're here. So they're here.
The more dangerous part is when you have the things you don't know about.
Right. And that's essentially what's happening until they announce themselves in some way to a lot of people. And hopefully you would find them. But clearly, I mean, come on, they've hit Gorilla Glue, Netflix. Supposedly they're saying they're doing something to Universal. A long list of medical practices, education systems. I mean, they've been all over the place. So it's not like, they're just targeting a specific area. They're out there roaming around looking for anything they can find, whether it's a single doctor's office or, the first ones we really heard about was like Athens Orthopedic, Peachtree Orthopedic. Those are the ones down here. Mm-hmm. And that was 2 years ago. It was over 2 years ago. So it's interesting to see how hard they're working to try to find them, and they keep thinking they've arrested people more than once. I mean, for at least the last year, I know of times where I read, well, they've arrested somebody that's a member of the Dark Overlord, and then, oh, well, our bad, not so much. Or you never hear anything more about it because, secret stuff, secrets. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, that's what goes along with Poltergeist, because when they announce themselves, it's absolutely terrifying from that point forward. And that's kind of how that movie started, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. So that moves us on to number 2. Speaking of other people who like to announce their presence. So this is kind of another oldie but goodie, but so you can imagine the guy, he just axed a big hole in the door, and then he looks through the hole and says, "Here's Johnny."
Here's Johnny. Here's Johnny.
I know. That was so funny.
And they say that he was, he just kind of ad-libbed that during the filming.
Huh.
Yeah. So it was absolutely, kind of all Jack Nicholson's thing. Because that was the Johnny Carson show back then.
Yeah.
Here's Johnny. You heard that every night. And I did make note of the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Mm-hmm.
But, The Shining it's a classic, and it's absolutely terrifying in so many ways, and especially to kids, man. It's terrifying to a kid. But to me, and in this comparison, it's showing that, in that case, there were ghosts that was driving somebody to a homicidal madness, and more than once. But it just shows you can't trust even the ones closest to you when they're being influenced by forces outside your understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So when we tell everybody all the time, you can't just assume that, oh, well, this employee's worked for me for 20 years. I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, right.
Not unless you're keeping up with what's going on in their lives and they're telling you about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, statistically, we saw recently that, of course, this is a survey they did, but they said 25% of people that work for you are willing to sell data from your organization.
Yeah, it was somewhere in that neighborhood, and it just depends on how you look, but it's a big number.
Yeah.
It's a big number. And if that's going on and you don't know what kind of pressure they're under that would make them snap, where before they would not necessarily have taken an axe to the door trying to kill you, and then suddenly they would. So in this scenario, it's along those lines, and where you don't really understand, and you're often looking at them like, why in the world would you have done that? And the one that came to mind, the story that came to mind when I was thinking about this, was the Vegas doctor who looked up, we covered this one recently, that looked up the medications that the shooter and the mass murderer was on, and then clearly sold the story, because they look it up and he's telling his staff to do it specifically. So they may have even been saying, hey, don't make me do this. But he's saying, look, do what you're told. And so, yeah, here's Johnny.
Yeah, people do crazy stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that we talk a lot about the staff potentially doing things, but in this case, it was the doctor himself,
right?
that ordered it.
So it is the staff, and there's cases where over and over and over we hear about these one-off data breaches that it's not the hacking group, it's not the hacking collective, it's the individuals. And you just do not know that, this Princess and the Pea thing is going on or whatever. But everybody has stuff happening, and pressure can, boil over and make people who you would normally never consider they are doing things start to do things totally out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, that Farrah Fawcett UCLA story, prime example. I mean, the woman that was doing it had cancer herself, and she died before they could even put her on trial for doing it. But it's absolutely imperative that we do not assume that somebody's not going to have things that would make them do things you never imagined. So that doesn't mean that you have to assume that everybody's going to grab the axe and come running down the hall either, though. Please don't go to that extreme. Just get out of the other extreme. Stay in the middle. I'm a fan of the middle. Both the show and the and anyway, so there's our shining moment.
So that brings us.
It didn't work for you. Okay.
It was funny. Wow, you pulled that one out late in the afternoon too.
Oh, no, really?
So that brings us to number 3, which doesn't sound scary until you consider the source.
And until you look into it.
Right. So, I wish I could do my best impression of the guy, but
I can only do the.
I can only do the mask. So, yeah. But when Anthony Hopkins says, I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend over for dinner.
No, he says, I'm having an old friend
for dinner. Yeah. For dinner.
That's the key. He left out over for dinner. So when Hannibal Lecter says that and turns around and starts following somebody, okay, I'm sorry. That movie is when I stopped seeing these kind of movies in the theaters, because I would just get up and I went home to, back in the day, locked everything, closed everything, and kept peeping out. I didn't need anything that could make me more paranoid at that moment than that movie. It was absolutely terrifying to watch that movie. And Anthony Hopkins was amazing in that part because you're just terrified. And of course, Claire.
But then you think that, okay, this is just a horror movie and it could never really happen. and then we find out that it does happen.
Yeah, indeed. So, and that's a whole new terrifying thing. But it's the key here is that if you just heard that line, you wouldn't think anything about it unless you did a little bit more digging.
Right.
You got to pay a little bit more attention and evaluate things. So an investigation is required, and we just went over this.
Mm-hmm.
And you came up with a great line, and it is working. The don't nuke and pave, the hard drive you must save.
You like that, huh?
I do. But it is something that is exactly an example of why you have to do the investigation. Because everything is not as it first appears. Just you first hear that line from somebody, if somebody was walking by, see him talking on the phone in wherever he was, Mexico or whatever, and they see him talking on the phone and hang up the phone and walk after somebody, I wouldn't have thought anything about it without the story behind it. Then all of a sudden I'm freaking right on out and want to go home and shut all the doors.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very important that you hear what is being said and then add the underlying story to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
There's cases I'm aware of where a patient will make a complaint and the patient doesn't know all these terms. They don't know all these things to say. They just know they're concerned about this. And if you don't spend the time truly understanding and being patient with the patient to do your investigation and get to the bottom of it, there could be things happening, and not like malicious, horrible things. It's something you just don't even know and no one's aware of because they don't understand. They don't take the time to investigate what somebody's actually saying, what they mean when they say something.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, we knew exactly what he meant.
Yeah. So if you have a ransomware attack and you hear the IT guy say something about nuke and pave,
that's right.
Yeah, you might want to think about that.
Pull out all the stops. Stop them. Stop them. Stop them.
Yeah. Otherwise, as I mentioned before the show, you would be nuke and puke.
Uh-oh, the FCC is going to get us for that one. But it is, you're absolutely right that you will end up in a horror film. And because people don't take the time to pay attention and investigate, something really bad could be about to happen. And you can stop it sometimes if you're just listening and saying, whoa, back up. What did you say right there?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the sign of somebody that's been in any kind of investigations, whether it's tech support or, the kinds of stuff we have to do where we're asking tons of questions and we're tracking things, is to stop and ask that extra question. And it matters more than you would ever know. And I had to do an investigation one time to say, okay, this horrible, there's something wrong in the workflow. We thought we had it solved, and this mistake happened again, and we got to figure out where that mistake's happening in the workflow. So I'm going, it's one of those things where, 4 or 5 different people are involved in the process. So I'm going from person to person. The administrator said, I need you to figure out what's going on, Donna. That don't matter, Donna. Figure it out. and so I go from person to person and I'm asking the questions and, everybody's assuming it's a computer problem. So I'm making sure I'm going through every single step they take. And I get to the 4th person, the 4th one, not the 5th, but the 4th one, the one before the last one. And I say, okay, so you worked with me when we originally came up with this workflow. how is it that you do things? Well, I do this, and this. And that's what I taught the person that's now doing it. And I go to the fifth one and I say, that's what you're doing. And the problem still occurred. And I back up to the fourth one and I say, tell me again every little step. Well, it turned out that the one step she had not shared when she said, then I make note on the calendar so we know when to follow up. I'm thinking the computer calendar.
Mm-hmm.
No. I said, go back and show me the calendar. Pulls it out from under her monitor tray. It's this one right here, the one I wrote on. Did you give that to the other person? No. Maybe I should have. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, maybe you should have given it to them or a system along those lines. But yes, the investigation matters. It's not as it seems. So there you go.
Mm. So for those of you who want to go back to paper, there's still issues.
Yeah, that's what happened. It was like, and I took the administrator. I said, I found what went wrong. I took her through it, and she just banged her head on the table. What else are you gonna?
That's funny. All right, so that brings us to number 4. This was an old movie, but it also had a remake. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Was the quote in the remake? So
yeah. I mean, it's Gina Davis is the one you see doing it. So.
Yeah. So this is be afraid, be very afraid.
Yes.
So I don't know that I've ever seen this one. So tell me about The Fly.
So the Fly, but. I just had this vision of those big sunglasses they used to make, and you're wearing them and everybody's like, I'm the Fly. So basically it's this, the mad scientist kind of concept. And the scientist thinks he's got all of this stuff sorted out and he can go in this little pod and, it's safe. It's safe. It's no concern. Mm-hmm. And then kind of mates himself with a fly. and you end up with the son of the fly and all, he just goes on and on and on, but it merges his DNA with the fly and it's just be afraid, be very afraid. And so that's Gina Davis's little quote, because he's saying, oh, it's nothing to worry about, it's no big deal. Yeah, you should pay attention, because sometimes when people are telling you it's nothing to worry about, you should be afraid, be very afraid.
Like the hippa schmippa crowd.
Yeah, those people. All you got to do is just trust me. I've got this.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Hippa made easy peasy.
Of course, we learn that everything's made easy nowadays.
I know, really? It's like, what more can be made easy? And, it's if yes, things are easy, but then they are not as they seem, are they?
No.
All is not as they say. But the be afraid, be very afraid is answering to the you've got nothing to worry about. The minute that you think you've got nothing to worry about is when the horror movie starts.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the time that it gets scary.
Yeah, and that usually comes from, well, I don't know. I hadn't heard about this lately. Maybe you have, but there was an influx of this happening from EMR vendors a few years ago with, the whole, hey, we've got your HIPAA stuff done. There's nothing to worry about. And I don't know if that's still happening, but I know it used to be pretty bad.
Well, yeah, I think they backed off on it after their initial pass of their meaningful use risk analysis was built into their systems, and then suddenly it was gone. But there's that whole thing of, well, we have a cloud EHR, so we don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, alrighty then. Ask the Allscripts people if they should worry about it. They're not even a year out of the horrible moment when Allscripts failure caused them major pain and problems. So,
or I love the people who always say, we don't have anything on our systems. You might think you don't have anything in your systems.
I know. Well, the system itself is valuable because I can now use it to attack other people. I can harvest contacts off of there. I can do a million things with that system.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that now. I have that chart. Brian Krebs did a chart that shows the computer in the middle and all the things that could be done with a single computer by somebody taking it over. You put that up there, it gets some attention, because none of these are good things. None of these are happy moments. These are all terrifying moments up here. So you should always, have a little bit of paranoia going on.
Yeah, we had one just today. Fortunately, we caught it rather quickly, but we had one of our medical clients called and they said, we have a person here that's setting up a new copier and we need for you to give him access to whatever he needs so he can set up his software. So I instructed one of my techs. I said, they just want remote access. So you log into the computer, you give them remote access, and then you monitor everything they're doing.
That would be the proper way to do it.
So anyway, so that went off without a hitch. And then at some point, there was mention that, oh, by the way, we put a Windows 10 machine on the network so that it can report back ink levels and, whatever, supply information. And I was like, wait a minute.
Back up, Bessie.
So now we have a computer on our medical client's network that is not being secured or monitored and not VLANed. Big problem. So, but we were able to address it fairly quickly because it happened today. But if we had not been called to assist in this, how long would that system have sat there before we found it? Probably the next quarterly review.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's paying attention to what people said.
Yep. Because I'm sure the guy really was like, helped. Oh, don't worry about it. We got this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I'm sure that the copier people told you there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah. We're just going to plug this in over here and this is what it does. And you're like, great.
Yeah. It comes free. You don't have to pay for
it. Oh, you'll pay for it.
Yeah. It could be the most, all of those cases are things that, if it's free, you're going to pay dearly at some point for that freedom.
This is true.
So that be afraid, be very afraid. You should always be. Don't all of a sudden assume, oh, we're good, because that's when it'll go really, really bad. That's when the fly happened.
Yeah. All right, so that brings us to our last one. Man, this is like, I think this movie is playing on TV every week somewhere.
I know, constantly.
I know,
but it's a classic that there's just more classic.
It is, and I still will not go swimming in the ocean because of this movie. So the quote is, "You're going to need a bigger boat."
It's one of the best quotes ever because it just really was the most highly understated moment of a horror flick that you can have,
Yeah, because the shark was the size of the boat.
We just saw the first encounter of this giant monster shark, and he calmly does, "You're going to need a bigger boat." It's not like, hey, we're going to have 4 more people at the party.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, things grow and become huge sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you're not well equipped to deal with them.
Yes. And so there's these assumptions that, we're too big to, be bothered by it. And I think a lot of that we saw in the MD Anderson administrative law judge's statements that we reviewed. And then most recently, we experienced it with the Anthem breach announcement that just came out this week that we will be reviewing either the next episode or the one after that. I don't know. One of these really soon. We're going to take that apart and do the guidance like we do on these settlements where you can really learn what went wrong and what it is they're telling them to do. Mm-hmm. I'm sure in there, though, there'll be something about a complete and thorough risk analysis because they didn't evaluate everything.
Right.
They didn't go get a bigger boat. Now they need a much bigger boat. Then they needed a bigger boat because they had 79 million patients, the largest HIPAA data breach in history. And your buddy Roger, I had a great quote. I thought you would love it. The largest breach in history deserves the largest settlement in history.
Well, at least they deserve it.
Deserve it.
They earned this one.
Yeah. $16 million settlement. And they say they do them to make sure they got your attention. They don't want it to be something that you can easily just write a check for. Because you could find a company the size of Anthem $1 million, and that wouldn't even show up as a main line on the balance sheet. It'd just be lumped in somewhere. This might actually get their attention. But I can't wait to hear about the robust corrective action plan. I've never seen them say so much about, the historic breach and the historic settlement and a robust corrective action plan. And that's what we'll cover. But the point is, you're going to need a bigger boat. Is if you think that this cybersecurity stuff is a small little fish, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You need a bigger boat. Yeah, I just spoke to a bunch of folks, a little over 100 folks at a seminar in Missouri, and it was about understanding just how bad the cybersecurity attacks are. And when you look at statistics that the AV-test group, that they're the ones that catalog and test all the different malware. And they publish a ongoing list of what they have determined is the number of malware software programs or variants that are out there. And the last time I went and grabbed one, it was, 80 million different ones, a massive number. But the thing that really gets the attention is there's 350,000 new ones every day. So you need a big freaking boat to capture all that fish. And a net and 42 other people and some.
Or you might need some outsourced IT.
Oh, yeah, that might be a good idea because you got to know what you're doing. If you're only licensed to drive a small boat or potentially even one with a where you're managing it yourself and you are the engine, an oar is not going to save you. You can't get across the lake fast enough. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, hey, these, we've got a lot of different things we can do with this. You're going to need a bigger boat thing.
We have a whole episode on the bigger boat.
But when you look at just the sheer volume and size of things like the botnets that are out there, statistics say in first quarter of this year, there were 1 billion devices as part of botnets. 1 billion. And in the first quarter, they were used for like 200 and something million fraud attacks. Wow. Which was, I think, 67% increase over 2017. So there's just a vast amount of devices out there now. And every time you plug in your refrigerator, your toaster, or something else new that's really cool, that's just another device that could be part of a bot. And the fact that they even noticed, Android boy, that 100 million of them were mobile devices, and that, there's a huge amount of malware that's being distributed that way now.
It's not coming from Android, it's all them Apple devices.
Well, the top ways of distribution were Office attachments, browser tricks, and Android. Literally Android. Just saying Android. That's all I'm saying.
I just can't believe that.
Yeah, there's 90 something million that they found apps in the Google Play Store that had some version of malware as part of them. And it's like, hey, come play solitaire with your friends. And Oh yeah, of course I wanted. I mean, that's what made me end up putting the parental controls on my father-in-law's mobile devices.
Yeah.
He would fall for that stuff. Well, I do want those weather alerts. You could get them another way. I'll set them up for you. Use those.
Yeah. See, I don't know. If you don't go out there and just start downloading a bunch of stuff, I guess you just don't have as many problems. I've never had an issue with Android, but I'm also not going out there playing games on it and all this other stuff either.
Yeah, and it's not me and you that's the problem.
Oh, I know
we're
that.
Paranoid about everything.
The problem.
Oh, jeez. Well, okay, that's enough for today's episode. Yeah, we're done now.
I'm always right. Just ask my wife.
Yes, folks, she did go and get him a shirt that says #David was right. No!
Yep.
This is where she gave up.
Yep.
There you go.
She's awesome.
She is, but that ain't why.
All right, folks. I better put a lid on this one. So that's been our Halloween episode. Glad you listened. Hope it wasn't horrible. Horrible. Please make sure you share this out to your friends and family and loved ones and all those other people that you want to terrorize. Rate us on our podcasting app and help us spread the word. We appreciate it. So remember, for Donna and myself, the HIPAA is not about being scary. It's about the patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.